Now, I've been betting profitably over a huge number of years, over a very large number of events. What's the big secret? Well, of course, you probably recognize me more now for my Betfair trading, and that is betting in essence. It's betting on price movement and direction and all sorts of other factors. But I always have been betting for many, many years, almost as long as I can remember. And there are a number of key facets behind here that are fundamental to being able to bet profitably over the long term. And a lot of people can't do it. So in this video, I'm going to be explaining specifically why that's the case, what you should be looking for, why it works. But also, funny enough, I'm going to explain why you won't do it. Because it takes a certain approach to be able to do this correctly. And a lot of people do not get over all of those hurdles to be able to do this effectively. But I will tell you anyhow. But before we go into that, I need to prove one of these key concepts to you. And if you look at my social media, I will often make suggestions and little hints about things that I think of value or not value, because ultimately that's how you'll make money in the long term by betting, is having a positive expectancy and betting into value positions. But one of the most common phrases that you see me post up has become a bit of a catchphrase for me, and that catchphrase is typically, what I'm hinting at here is that strange things occur more frequently than you would expect, and that's where you tend to find value. Don't believe me? Well, let's get the video off to a great start here, and I want you to do something for me, and I would really appreciate it if you actually do this, because it will bear relevance if you watch through to the end of the video and you understand what we're trying to do. But what I want you to do is to leave a comment on this video as you're watching it, preferably. So pause it, scroll down and do what I'm about to tell you. But I want you to put your birthday in here. So if you were born on the 4th of April, just put 04/04. Or maybe you were born on Christmas Day, in which case put 26/12. And it doesn't have to be your birthday. It could be your cat's birthday, the day you got your car, or your favorite football player or something like that. Just a date that's relevant to you. We're just looking for dates here. But the only reason I'm asking for your birthday is because it will bear relevance to what we're going to be talking about in a second and the solution to this problem. But ultimately, please go into the comments, leave your birthday or the date that you have chosen in the comments, and we will return to this and you will understand the significance of what I'm saying and how it relates to betting in a little while. But hopefully you have scrolled down and left a date within the comments, which you will be able to compare with others once you understand where we're going at the end of this video. But typically, when you look at any particular betting market, there's this problem. People love to win. So people tend to bet on things that are very likely to occur. Tipsters tend to give you high frequency winning events. Trading gurus and mentors will give you high frequency trades that will have a high win probability rate. Things that occur frequently. Why? Because you'll get a little kick from getting that win. It will hold you in the game for longer, and that's what everybody wants to do. I approached a couple of people to write an article around Cheltenham, and what did all of these people wanted? They wanted some tips. They wanted some actionable content, is what they call it in the media industry. They didn't want to tell people how to make money, because that's boring and dull and takes a lot of effort. They just wanted which horse is going to win? How is he going to win? How can you profit from it? Tell me now, tell me now. And the whole industry and human nature is geared up to that. You want that little hit. You want to be able to sort of go, I was right, I was not wrong. You don't want to look a fool. If you sort of say, oh, I'm going to back this 30-1 shot, everybody will laugh at you when it doesn't come in. It's like, what were you thinking? However, if you back the thing that's slightly odds against and it romps home, you can sort of go, I do know what I'm talking about here. But the fact is, when you're betting, one of the things that I've identified is there is a discrepancy within the market that has persisted over a very large number of years. and it's ingrained into the human psyche. If I bring up a graph now it's going to describe how much money is bet on the favourite. And if you look at that in proportion to the rest of a field, this is a horse race, because this is where I have lots of quality data, but it does apply to every other sports, but in varying degrees and shapes and forms. But you can see that if we look at the price of the favourite here, there's much more money goes on the favourite than there does on any other runner in the field. So do you think that betting on a favourite, especially at a shorter price, is a good proposition or a bad proposition? We know that the market is generally efficient overall, but that efficiency is made up of some things being efficient and other things not being efficient. If you measure all of those in aggregate, of course, that's going to be efficient because you've got bad guesses and good guesses and they even each other out. They balance out the whole mix. But on an individual basis, you will find that there are discrepancies all over the place, and it's those discrepancies that I tend to look for within a market. So if you're betting on a favourite, the first thing you need to know is that there is a lot more money bet on the favourite than anything else. And the shorter the price gets, the more money is bet on it. And now the silly thing is, the shorter the odds get, the less value it is, the less return you will get on it. So the shorter and shorter the price goes, the more and more confident people feel that it's going to win, but the poorer value it becomes. So what's the alternative? Well, you can bet on an outsider if you so wish. And the problem that you have here is that, say we were betting on something at 50 to 1. You know, if you look at your equity curve, if you look at your betting P&L, the amount of money that you're making in profit or losses as you go through this particular sequence of event, if you bet on something at a short price, you know, you'll get win, 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 loss, win, 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 loss. And, you know, the equity curve, you know, you'll get a few hits every now and again, but you'll generally win quite frequently. If you look at outsiders, it tends to go the other way around. It tends to be loss, 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 win, loss, 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 win, loss, 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 and so on. So you can see there's loss after loss after loss. You're an idiot, you're a fool. Why are you pursuing this strategy? You're just losing money, hand over. Oh, I've just won. And as a consequence, the problem is it's very hard to back outsiders over a very long sequence of time because you need a bigger bank than you would do if you were pursuing a strategy that won frequently. The problem with the strategy that wins frequently is it slowly drains away. Your bank begins to drain away gradually over a period of time. But when you're backing outsiders, you tend to find it drains very quickly and then gets a nice top up, drains very quickly, gets a nice top up. So you're looking just to tip that in your favor. You're looking to find situations where you could actually get a little bit of an edge. But the curious thing about the market is people don't bet on the outsiders as much as they do on the favourite. And the fact is, on a betting exchange where the market's so efficient, if the favourite is pulling in, by default, the prices on the others will start to go out. Whether people lay them or not, whether their price is pushing out naturally, or whether it's a function of the fact that the front of the field is a little bit too short. It tends to push the value to the back of the field. So if you go and back something at the back of the field, you're probably more likely to find value, but you need to adjust your stakes in proportion to the potential return. What does that mean? Well, on the US PGA Golf recently, Phil Mickelson, 50-year-old Phil Mickelson, made history by becoming the oldest player ever to win the US PGA. And he did so at odds of 500 to 1. You know, who would have backed Phil Mickelson at 500 to 1? I did. Now, the interesting thing is I'm looking for value all over the market. And when you look at a golf event, the problem that you've got here is that, you know, picking up a 500 to 1 shot, you'd have to bet in a lot of golf events for that return to be able to be seen. So what I typically do when we're looking at a golf event is I don't tend to back just one player. I tend to back a series of them that I think will be in contention at one point or another. And that's how I tend to capture value. So when we're talking about backing outsiders, it doesn't need to be just one. It could actually be a mixture of those. And if you use BetAngel, you would use a tool like the Dutching tool to set a potential stake or a potential profit that you're aiming for, and then spread that liability across a series of events, players, horses, whatever you want. That's the way that you would capture value there. I've often mentioned this in a number of articles and a number of different things. But the problem is that you will lose fairly frequently before those outside sort of events occur. And sometimes the payoff can be absolutely spectacular, but sometimes it's a bit more moderate. But the fact is that they occur much more frequently than you would expect. But how more frequently would they occur? Now, if you've done what I said at the beginning of this video and you've actually put your birthday in the comments, I'm about to prove to you exactly how frequently that will actually occur. And if you look at the number of days in a year, you will know that that is approximately 365. So if I'm in a room, somebody else walks into the room, what's the chance of us having the same birthday? Well, you could sort of say, well, there are two of us and there are 365 days in the year. It's got to be absolutely tiny. It's got to be absolutely, minute. And this is a well-known thing called the birthday problem. It's a well-known piece of maths to do with converse probability. But it always catches people out because when you look at a room of people, you just wouldn't expect somebody in there to have the same birthday as you. You'd think, well, I'd need at least 365 people before there's a good chance that two of us had the same birthday. But this is a stunt that I've pulled repeatedly on corporate events and coaches and all sorts of stuff. I have a bet with somebody and say, I bet you 100 quid that in this coach of 20 people or whatever, I'm making some careful notes before I do this, that there are two people in here that have the same birthday. And people will always take me up on this bet. But it's a fatal thing to do, because how many people do you think it requires to be in a room before two or more people share the same birthday? Hopefully you'll see this reflected on the comments below. The answer is that you only need 23 people in a room before two or more people share the same birthday. It seems ridiculous. There are 365 days in the year, but you only need 23 people in a room before it becomes more likely than not that two or more people have the same birthday. If we actually look on the statistics here, you can see as we increase the number of people within the room, then the likelihood of them having the same birthday increases almost exponentially. It becomes very, very heavy odds on, even if you increase the numbers to a relatively small amount. But the fact is, and the reason that I've thrown this in on this video, is to prove to you that unusual events occur more frequently than you would expect. Now, in the context of betting, we have to look at this slightly differently. But the fact is that people get the probabilities wrong all of the time. And that's why you tend to find value at some of those bigger ends of the market. But you also find value simply because people just don't bet there. They don't have the bankroll, the psychology to do it. They can't stand the drawdowns. Plus, you also look a complete idiot when you have a long sequence of losing bets. But the fact is, that tends to be where the value is within the market. So if you want to profit from betting in the long term, my advice to you is always look for those outside events. Structure your staking in such a way that you can moderate the payoff or the amount of money that you're using per bet. But basically, if you can keep your bank going for long enough, those payoffs will occur much more frequently than you would expect. And ultimately, that's where you'll find most value in the market. So if you're going to make betting pay in the long term, that's exactly what I recommend that you do.